G'day, hello, and welcome to the stream. Hello, I'm extremely late. I do apologize. Alright, it would be wrong of me not to apologize and at least give you some kind of excuse. So, I have this other channel. This is also why I'm doing this now, adjusting the microphone now. I have another channel, and I use that other channel to stream as well. Very different content, but whenever I have to change over streams, it is a real nightmare. If a couple of clicks turns into, as it sometimes does every 20 or so times, turns into a 10-second turned 10-minute troubleshooting session. Anyway, I do apologize for being late, but welcome to the stream. Welcome back to Boring Dad Sleep Stories. And if you are watching live, then welcome. And if you're watching later, then welcome. Either way, the request is the same. Please say you were here. Leave your mark. Let me know that you were here, so I can look back in time in the future and see who was here celebrating good classic literature with me. And how are you? How are you? If you're a repeat visitor to the channel, then you'll know that I try my best to respond to every single comment on the channel. So yeah, please feel free to drop in and say hi, live or otherwise. Now, I know I look a little bit out of it and tired, and that is because I am. And that's okay, because sometimes I get my best work out of myself, with that being the case. Right, so we're going to switch over now, and let's just remind ourselves of our job for tonight. So, we are in the process of creating the Shore Road mystery, which is here. Here it is here. Last time we got to, I think we finished chapter 5, More Thieving. And we are moving on today to chapter 6, On the Shore Road. And I think that Frank and Joe have had about enough. They've already got their friend and his father out of jail. They've paid bail for him along with their dad. And they are going to now try and solve some of the mystery surrounding the car thefts along Shore Road, just outside of Bayport. So, that's what we're going to get to. That's about the middle. I've started with the middle. Do you like that? Here's the process. Right. We're going to warm up in a second by reading this short story by Mark Twain called The War Prayer. I've never read it before. A very cursory glance tells me that it will kind of, it'll glean some pearls of wisdom for myself. For you, if you've read it before, it'll remind you. And for my main audience for this channel, which is, as always, and just a little reminder, this is all dedicated. Everything you see on this channel is dedicated to our two sons, who are currently 6 and 3 years old. And boys, we've had an interesting day. It's the second last day of school holidays, and it's been somewhat tempestuous at times, but we've gotten through it, and we've had lots of highs. We went to the dump and unloaded the trailer. That was great. And you guys always have a good time there. Oh, pardon me. It's currently 10:28 p.m., not a.m., just in case you hadn't guessed. And you were very late to bed. You were very late to sleep. There was lots of procrastination, which led to much calm breathing on my and your mother's part. More myself. Your mother was very patient tonight, and we selfishly wanted to watch a short YouTube documentary not documentary, a video essay by one of our favorite channels called Folding Ideas. And for anyone out there, not just our sons in the future, but Folding Ideas is a YouTube channel, and it is just marvelous. Yeah, enough said. We'll get on with the day. So we're going to read, so welcome, live audiobook creation. We're going to warm up my voice, get the old pipes working and pumping with The War Prayer by Mark Twain. We're then going to move on to The Shore Road Mystery. We're going to try and do at least one chapter, hopefully two. Pardon it. Oh. Okay, that's 2 yawns in about 3 minutes. That's an alarming ratio. After that, we are going to be using Project Gutenberg to continue creating short story videos, short story narration videos of Kaidan by Lafcadio Hearn, and the full story title, anthology title, is, as you can see on the screen, Kaidan, Stories and Studies of Strange Things. Mostly supernatural and ghost stories, basically, from Japan, published in 1904. And today we will be just narrating one of these stories, which is this one here. And you can see why it's only one, because the full production of something this long, Rokudo Kubi, especially if it's going to have a few Japanese words that I might have to look up on Google Translate for pronunciation, we will be working our way through that, trying to get that published on YouTube by the end of the video. If I haven't broken my own spirit by then I will maybe even do a second unrelated wildcard short story or piece of text and uploading that. Who knows, it might even be Mark Twain's The War Prayer, you never know. Sometimes I read these and I go, oh, this is great, just to myself as a warm-up, and I go, well, I'm actually going to record this. There have been several examples of that on this channel. Right, so let's get into it. This is just, like I said, a complete warm-up, and as I do this, I'm just turning up the gain, what we call the gain, on my monitoring headphones. These bad boys here. And now I can hear my voice more clearly than even you can there, sitting or laying down or doing whatever you're doing with this audio in your ears. And I would recommend that, I think this kind of content, for me anyway, when I listen to stuff like this, or watch stuff like this, well, I just said it, I tend to put it on in the background. Now I'm happy for you to read along, obviously, come along, but listening to this while you go about your day is just a nice way to have something buzzing in the background, a weird Australian accent. If that's foreign to you and a little bit exotic, go for it, go nuts. But if you are going to sleep, I have found my monotonous droning has been very effective at putting our sons to sleep anyway, and sometimes even my wife and I. Not because I'm a big fan of my own voice, but just because it works. I think because it is my own voice, I think my body revolts and goes to sleep in protest of having to listen to itself. Maybe, I don't know. But welcome along for the ride either way. Let's get warmed up. So this is completely raw, cold reading, and we're just going to have a bit of fun with it. The War Prayer by Mark Twain, published in 1905, and this is 1,297 words. It was a time of great and exulting excitement. The country was up in arms, the war was on, and, in every breast burned the holy fire of patriotism. The drums were beating, the bands playing, the toy pistols popping, the bunched firecrackers hissing and sputtering. On every hand and far down the receding and fading spreads of roofs and balconies, a fluttering wilderness of flags flashed in the sun. Actually, I've just realized I've still got music going in the background. We don't want that. or we want it to be so low, we'll put it low. We'll put it down here. There we go. Actually, no. Let's take it away. Take it away. Take him away. Star Wars, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, the Trade Federation, those slimy bunch of crooks. Okay, is where that quote comes from. Right. Let's start it again. Okay, so we're doing our warm-up, The War Prayer by Mark Twain, and it was published in 1905. It's going to be quite a raw reading. So this is not recorded. We're not recording this on Audacity. Actually, I might even just get rid of Audacity there in the background. We don't need it just yet. Bada bing, bada boom. So, it was a time of great and exulting excitement. The country was up in arms. The war was on. In every breast burned the holy fire of patriotism. The drums were beating, the bands playing, the toy pistols popping, the bunched firecrackers hissing and sputtering. On every hand and far down the receding and fading spreads of roofs and balconies, a fluttering wilderness of flags flashed in the sun. Daily, the young volunteers marched down the wide avenue, gay and fine in their new uniforms, the proud fathers and mothers and sisters and sweethearts, cheering them with voices choked with happy emotion as they swung by. Nightly, the packed mass meetings listened, panting, to patriot oratory, which stirred the deepest deeps of their hearts, and which they interrupted at briefest intervals with cyclones of applause, the tears running down their cheeks the while. In the churches, the pastors preached devotion to flag and country, and invoked the God of battles, beseeching his aid in our good cause in outpouring of fervid eloquence which moved every listener. It was indeed a glad and gracious time, and the half-dozen rash spirits that ventured to disapprove of the war and cast a doubt upon its righteousness straightway got such a stern and angry warning that for their personal safety's sake they quickly shrank out of sight and offended no more in that way. Just have a little break here, sorry. Anyone seeing any correlations to the current recording date? These are 121 years apart. The date of publishing and today, well, this year. Just to remind you that indeed history is cyclical, goes around and around. Right. Sunday morning came. Next day, the battalions would leave for the front. The church was filled. The volunteers were there, their faces alighted with material dreams, visions of a stern advance, the gathering momentum, the rushing charge, the flashing sabers, the flight of the foe, the tumult, the enveloping smoke, the fierce pursuit, the surrender. Then home from the war, bronzed heroes, welcomed, adored, submerged in golden seas of glory. With the volunteers sat their dear ones, proud, happy, and envied by the neighbors and friends who had no sons and brothers to send forth to the field of honor, there to win for the flag or, failing, die the noblest of noble deaths. The service proceeded. A war chapter from the Old Testament was read. The first prayer was said. It was followed by an organ burst that shook the building, and with one impulse, the house rose with glowing eyes and beating hearts, and poured out that tremendous invocation, God the all-terrible, thou who ordainest thunder thy clarion and lightning thy sword. Sorry, I ruined that bit. All right. Then came the long prayer. None could remember the like of it for passionate pleading and moving and beautiful language. The burden of its supplication was that an ever-merciful and benignant Father of us all would watch over our noble young soldiers and aid comfort and encourage them in their patriotic work. Bless them, shield them in his mighty hand, make them strong and confident, invincible in the bloody onset. Help them to crush the foe, grant to them and to their flag and country imperishable honor and glory. Ah, an aged stranger entered, and moved with slow and noiseless step up the main aisle, his eyes fixed upon the minister, his long body clothed in a robe that reached to his feet, his head bare, his white hair descending in a frothy cataract to his shoulders, his seamy face unnaturally pale, pale even to ghastliness. With all eyes following him and wondering, he made his silent way. Without pausing, he ascended to the preacher's side and stood there, waiting. With shut lids, the preacher, unconscious of his presence, continued his moving prayer, and at last finished it with the words uttered in fervent appeal. Bless our arms, grant us the victory, O Lord our God, Father and protector of our land and flag. The stranger touched his arm, motioned him to step aside, which the startled minister did, and took his place. During some moments he surveyed the spellbound audience with solemn eyes in which burned an uncanny light. Then, in a deep voice, he said, I come from the throne, bearing a message from Almighty God. The words smote the house with a shock. If the stranger perceived it, he gave no attention. He has heard the prayer of his servant, your shepherd, and granted, if such shall be your desire, after I, his messenger, shall have explained to you its import, that is to say, its full import. For it is like unto many of the prayers of men, in that it asks for more than he who utters it is aware of, except he pause and think. God's servant and yours has prayed his prayer. Has he paused and taken thought? Is it one prayer? No, it is two. One uttered, the other not. Both have reached the ear of his who heareth all supplications, the spoken and the unspoken. Ponder this. Keep it in mind. If you beseech a blessing upon yourself, beware, lest, without intent, you invoke a curse upon a neighbor at the same time. If you pray for the blessing of rain upon your crop which needs it, by that act you are possibly praying for a curse upon some neighbor's crop which may not need rain and can be injured by it. You have heard your servant's prayer, the uttered part of it. I am commissioned by God to put into words the other part of it, that part which the pastor, and also you in your hearts, fervently prayed silently, and ignorantly, and unthinkingly. God grant that it was so. You heard these words, grant us the victory, O Lord our God. That is insufficient. Sorry, it's a Freudian slip. That is sufficient. The whole of the uttered prayer is compact into those pregnant words. Elaborations were not necessary. When you have prayed for victory, you have prayed for the many unmentioned results which follow victor, must follow it, cannot help but follow it. Upon the listening Spirit of God the Father fell also the unspoken part of the prayer. He commandeth me to put it into words. Listen. O Lord our Father, our young patriots, idols of our hearts, go forth to battle, to be thou near them. With them in spirit we also go forth from the sweet peace of our beloved firesides to smite the foe. O Lord our God, help us to tear their soldiers to bloody shreds with our shells. Help us to cover their smiling fields with the pale forms of their patriot dead, Help us to drown the thunder of the guns with the shrieks of their wounded, writhing in pain. Help us to lay waste their humble homes with a hurricane of fire. Help us to wring the hearts of their unoffending widows with unavailing grief. Help us to turn them out roofless with their little children, to wander unfriended the wastes of their desolated land in rags and hunger and thirst, sports of the sun, flames of summer, and the icy winds of winter, broken in spirit, worn with travail, imploring thee for the refuge of the grave, and denied it. For our sakes who adore thee, Lord, blast their hopes, blight their lives, protract their bitter pilgrimage, make heavy their steps, water their way with their tears, stain the white snow with the blood of their wounded feet. We ask it in the spirit of love, of him who is the source of love, and who is the ever-faithful refuge and friend of all that are sore and beset, and seek his aid with humble and contrite hearts. Amen. After a pause. Ye have prayed it. If ye still desire it, speak. The messenger of the Most High waits. It was believed afterward that the man was a lunatic because there was no sense in what he said. Oh. That's amazing. That was bloody good. I do love a bit of Mark Twain. Okay, right. That concludes the warm-up of the session. And if you've just joined us, then welcome. And if not, then, and you're listening back later, then you'll know that I do mean it when I say that's the warm-up, and I do not go back and do much correcting. I correct on the spot. And you may have noticed as well that when I read through that Mark Twain piece that it's really easy to just let it flow, kind of Elsa from Frozen style. But now we move on to the first major job of the night. And in order to do this, we'll need to have Audacity up. So let's get our Audacity up. All right, and here it is on the top left of your screen, I do hope. And we are reading The Shore Road Mystery. We're going to work on chapters 6 and hopefully chapter 7, seeing how we're feeling. And here we are. Let's zoom in a little bit. All right. So they just went out on the boats. And when they came back from their boat trip out in the bay of Barmouth, in Barmouth Bay, just off Bayport, the Hardy Boys and their friends all returned home. And it turned out that Jack Dodd and his father, who have just been released, are now in trouble. Though in the eyes of the public are suspicious characters because they have been released just as 2 more cars have been stolen. 2 new automobiles. And I had to look up the pronunciation of Studebaker, or Studebaker. See, I've forgotten again. 2 brand new autos, a Franklin and a Studebaker, were stolen last night, he told them, right in the city. Good night. Okay, right, we're going to do a tiny little listen through. Okay. So, apologies for the clearing of the throat and the coughings and all the sounds, but this is a completely raw recording, like I said. Okay, now we're going to just have a listen back to, about the last 2 minutes. And we're going to I'm just kind of trying to get my head around the voice again, and we'll see how we go. 2 brand new autos, a Franklin and a Studebaker, were stolen last night, he told them. Right in the city. Good night. And there's been no trace of them? Not a sign. The police kept it quiet all day, hoping to recover them without any fuss, but they've had to admit themselves beaten. The cars have absolutely disappeared. Aunt Gertrude spoke up. Mighty funny there were no cars stolen while those Dodds were in jail, she said, pointedly. The minute they get out, away go 2 new automobiles. The boys glanced at one another uncomfortably. They were quite convinced that Jack Dodd and his father were innocent of any complicity in the car thefts, but they had to admit to themselves that their aunt had expressed a suspicion that might be commonly maintained throughout Bayport. The Dodds didn't have anything to do with it, said Fenton Hardy quietly. I'm sure of that. Still, it looks bad. It certainly does, declared Aunt Gertrude. Frank turned to his brother. It's time for us to get busy, he said. We'll go out on the Shore Road again tomorrow afternoon. I do apologize if you're listening back to that, and you will realize that about halfway through that I realized that you couldn't hear that through the stream. So you got about the last minute instead of the last 2 minutes. Like I said, this is a completely raw experience. Okay. Rightio, everybody. Boys, we're going to keep on going. Why not? And while you're at it, go and grab yourself a drink, something hot, something cold, depending on the weather. Snuggle up, listen to me, possibly have to repeat some of these sentences about 5 times over. I actually think I'm going to completely... hang on. No, I can't. Okay, I can't take away the feedback. Actually, I think I can. No, okay, let's try. I'm going to try and record using the feedback loop into the headphones from the microphone. But if it keeps on tripping me up, I'm just going to take it away. Because A, I'm not working for anyone else. I'm working for me. I'm working for you boys. I'm working for us, which means that it shouldn't really matter. But if it's getting in my own head, and B, also, it's never as bad as it seems through the headphones. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. Most of the time it's better. Right. But if it's if I can see that it's, causing me to pause too much and rethink my life choices, then I'm just going to turn the feedback loop off so I can't hear my own voice as clearly, and that usually increases my confidence and the pace. As we go through these, I usually try and explain the process a little bit. My process is very much my own, and I know in the past I've copped a lot of flack from other audiobook narrators and voice actors for not using the feedback loop, not listening to, not monitoring my voice as I go. Because you're supposed to know where you've made a mistake or where you've made a mouth click or an overly sibilant S, or there's been your chair's made a bit of noise in the background and you can sense it. But I am becoming increasingly of the mind that I'd like to have a flow in my production. So let's move on to Chapter 6. On the Shore Road, the Hardy Boys are about to go wild in their investigation. Let's see where they start their investigation. They'll probably return to some scene of some crime. Let's see what happens. Like I said, I'm reading this cold. Now, I'm also going to remove the visage you see before you. The head is going to have to go a little bit because I'd like to get a little bit closer to the microphone. I'm not going to have it too close, but I'm not going to have it too far away. And as you can see, I'm not going to face my mouth toward the microphone. I'm going to face it like that. I face it a little bit away. And you see that I'm kind of maintaining a distance of about that far, which is standard practice with recording. Just people usually say about that. which is a healthy distance. You will see some people right up on the microphone. That's not me. That's not me. I used to think it was, and sometimes when I read things very quietly, I get very close to the microphone, so it feels like I'm just sitting right next to you, just having a little chat in your ear. But we're not doing that right now. We're gonna just talk like we're talking to you in a room. Okay. I'm right there with you, boys, and you, whoever else is here. Yeah. We're just hanging out, reading a book together at the moment. Let's do it. Okay. I'm going to try and leave an organic 2 to 2.5 second gap between that chapter and this chapter. Again, tomorrow afternoon. Chapter 6. On the Shore Road. The Hardy Boys were now... Oh, there we go. First mistake of the night. Didn't take long. On the Shore Road. The Hardy Boys were not the only investigators on the Shore Road the next afternoon. The daring thefts of the 2 new cars from the very streets of Bayport had aroused public resentment to a high pitch, and the police were thrown into a flurry of activity. Motorists were beginning to clamor for action. Police were thrown into a flurry of activity. Motorists were beginning to clamor for action. No one dared to leave. Oh my gosh, read them. Do you notice the very extremely psychological effect that recording has upon a person, or can have upon a person? That last story? I mean, if I had to count the amount of major errors that I made in diction and things like that, it'd be less than 10 to 15. I've already made like 4 or 5. We're on line 4. Yeah, I just need to get out of my own head. Hang on. We'll turn it down a little bit more. Oh, that's even better. Let's do this thing. No, it's not letting me do my punch and roll. There we go. Police were thrown into a flurry of activity. Motorists were beginning to clamor for action. No one dared leave his car on... Oh my gosh, again. Thrown into a flurry of activity. Motorists were beginning to clamor for action. No one dared leave his car parked on the street without seeing that it was securely locked, even if only for a few minutes. The Automobile Club held a meeting at noon and passed a resolution urging Chief Collig to put all his available men on the case. And I am going to start it again, only because I think that was just crap reading. Motorists were beginning to clamor for action. No one dared leave his car parked on the street without seeing that it was securely locked, even if only for a few minutes. The Automobile Club held a meeting at noon and passed a resolution urging Chief Collig to put all his available men on the case. Resolution urging Chief Collig to put all his available men on the case. The Shore Road was patrolled by Bayport police and detectives, as well as by state troopers. All outgoing automobiles were stopped and credentialed. Oh my gosh. Detectives, as well as by state troopers. Detectives, as well. You sensing the frustration? Troopers. All outgoing automobiles were stopped and credentials demanded of the drivers. It was a case, however, of locking the stable door after the horse was stolen, for no more cars disappeared that day. Most of the people who were stopped... Oh my gosh. I don't know what's happening. I'm kind of stumbling over myself. I feel like I'm not reading ahead far enough. Usually I'm about half a sentence to a sentence ahead. When I'm actually saying the words, I'm already ahead of myself, so... Or maybe I'm too far ahead? I'm sure it'll settle down in a couple of minutes. That day. No more cars disappeared that day. Oh, there I am. Sorry, I lost my place. Disappeared that day. Most of the people who were stopped took the matter good-naturedly, but some were exceedingly bitter. How dare you take me for a thief? Oh, it's Mrs. Agatha Watts. Some were exceedingly bitter. How dare you take me for a thief? Shrilled Miss Agatha Mitts, a rich and peppery maiden lady who lived in an ancient mansion down the coast. It's outrageous. I won't show my license." "You'll have to, or go to jail," answered the trooper who had halted her. "The idea! How dare you talk to me like that? You know well enough who I am." "Sorry, but I don't know you from Adam. And anyway, it doesn't make any difference. Show your license, or I'll take you to the lockup." "I am Miss Agatha Middleton Mitts of Oldham Towers," said the maiden lady. "Lady? Or I'll take you to the lockup." "I am Miss Agatha Middleton Mitts of Oldham Towers," said the maiden lady heatedly. "And I—" "Going to show your license, or what?" Maiden lady heatedly. "And I—" "Going to show your license or not? If you haven't one—" "Oh, yes, I've got a license. But I want you to understand—" "Let me see it. Quick. You are holding up traffic." "Well, it's outrageous anyway," sighed Miss Mitts, sorry. "It's outrageous anyway," sighed Miss Mitts. But she had to rummage through her bag for the card and show it. Then she drove on, threatening all sorts of punishment to all the troopers in sight. Drawn by the hope of earning the rewards offered for the apprehension of the thieves and recovery of the missing cars, a number of amateur detectives, thieves and recovery of the missing cars, a number of amateur detectives went scouting around the thieves and recovery of the missing cars. A number of amateur detectives went scouting around the adjoining townships, harassing innocent farmers who had already been badgered and pestered into a state of exasperation by the officials. The Dodd family in particular suffered from these attentions. The Hardy boys and Chet Morton dropped in to see Jack Dodd and found him sitting disconsolately on top of the barnyard fence. "It's enough." Well, whoops. Consolately on top of the barnyard fence. "It's bad enough to have detectives and troopers coming around and asking us to account for every minute of our time since we were let out on bail," said Jack. "But when nosy people come prying and prowling around, it's a little too much." "You're not the only ones," consoled Frank. "Every farmer around Bayport has been chasing sleuths off the grounds all day." "They keep popping up from behind the woodshed and under fences like jackrabbits," said Jack, with a grin. "With a grin? Oh, okay." "Sleuths off the grounds all day." "They keep popping up from behind the woodshed and under fences like jackrabbits," said Jack, with a grin. "I suppose it would be funny if we hadn't gone through so much trouble already. One chap sat up in an apple tree half the morning watching the house. He thought we couldn't see him. I suppose he expects to catch us driving a stolen car into the barn." "Is he there yet?" asked Chet. Chet doesn't have a broken voice because he just had a cold. That's me. Sorry, guys. "Driving a stolen car into the barn." "Is he there yet?" asked Chet. Jack nodded. "He went away for a while. I guess he went home for lunch, but he came back. He's patient, I'll say that much for him. He's up in the tree now with a pair of field glasses." The genuine detective," said Chet, approvingly. "Does he know you saw him?" Jack shook his head. "No, we didn't pay any attention. I suppose he thinks he's been very clever." "Well, if he likes sitting in a tree so much, he'll have enough to suit him for a long while. You have a dog, haven't you, Jack?" Jack nodded. "A bulldog? Oh, I'll call him." He whistled sharply, and in a few minutes an extremely ferocious-looking bulldog came around the corner of the house, wagging his tail. "Fine. Got a chain for him?" The boys looked at Chet, puzzled. But Jack went away and returned with a long chain which he attached to the dog's collar. I don't think you should let a dog run around loose, said Chet gravely. It isn't good for him. Ah, I think he'd better be chained up. And if you'll show me just which apple tree contains our detective friend, I'll show you the apple tree that should shelter Towser. The others were beginning to see Chet's plan now. The Hardy boys grinned in anticipation. It's, the tree right beside the orchard gate, said Jack. You can see it from here. Come, Towser, said Chet, and stalked away. The bulldog waddled obediently behind, the chain clinking. Sorry, I'm just going to have a little drink. And let's keep on going. We're doing well. I mean, I started horribly, but we're doing okay now. Let's keep going. Come, Towser. Okay, what am I up to? The chain clinking. Obediently behind, the chain clinking. Chet went into the orchard and, without looking up, without giving any sign that he had noticed the man perched in the leafy branches above, he snapped the chain around the tree trunk, leaving Towser sitting in the shade. The bulldog looked puzzled, but he made no protest and settled down on his haunches. I guess that will hold our inquisitive friend for a while, said Chet cheerfully as he came back with the air of one who had just accomplished a worthy deed. If he wants to leave that tree, he'll have to argue the matter with Towser. Hastily, the boys retired behind the stable so that the victim in the tree would not witness their mirth. They peeked around the corner every little while to see if there was any disturbance in the orchard, but the watcher stayed where he was, probably waiting for the dog to fall asleep. He'll get tired of that, predicted Chet with a snicker. I think we'll see some action around that apple tree before long. Just then, the boys spied a familiar figure coming down the lane. Action around that apple tree before long. Just then, the boys spied a familiar figure coming down the lane. A car was parked out in the main road, and a bulky, stolid man was advancing toward them. Why, it's dear old Detective Smuff, declared Chet. Detective Smuff was one of the detectives on the Bayport police force. He was a worthy man, not over-blessed with brains, and Smuff, declared Chet. I think Chet's getting a bit snarky in the tone, like, advancing toward them. Why, it's dear old Detective Smuff, declared Chet. Detective Smuff was one of the detectives on the Bayport police force. He was a worthy man, not over-blessed with brains, and as a detective his successes had been mainly due to a dogged persistence rather than to any brilliant deductive abilities. 3 of the cases on which he had been engaged had been solved by the Hardy boys, which had not tended to increase his liking for the lads, but he was cordial enough and bore no malice. "Hello, Mr. Smuff," Frank called. The detective nodded ponderously. "More amateurs?" he sighed. The detective nodded ponderously. More amateurs," he sighed. "What chance has a regular officer on a case like this when everybody else in town is putting their oar in?" "Working on the car thefts?" asked Joe. "I am." Smuff turned to Jack Dodd. "Working on the car thefts?" asked Joe. "I am." Smuff turned to Jack Dodd. "Just where were you night before last, young man?" "At home," replied Jack shortly. "Night before last, young man?" "At home," replied Jack shortly. No, he's a little bit more cash. "Young man?" "At home," replied Jack shortly. There's no use asking me any more questions, Mr. Smuff. Chief Collig was out here yesterday morning, and Dad and I were able to satisfy him that we hadn't been out of the house all evening." "Oh," said Smuff, evidently disappointed. "The chief was here, was he?" "Yes." "Well, I guess there ain't any use of me asking questions then," returned the detective. "No sign of any of the cars, officer?" Frank asked. "Questions then?" returned the detective. "No sign of any of the cars, officer?" Frank asked. "Not a trace." "Any word from the other towns?" Detective Smuff shook his head. "There was 3 different ways they could have gone," he said. "The Shore Road branches off into 3 roads, and we've sent men out along every one of 'em, and every inch of the highway has been searched. Them cars have just plain vanished." "The police in the other towns didn't see them?" "No reports at all." "Perhaps... Oh, wait, that's a Joe. Sorry." "No reports at all." "Perhaps they were taken right through Bayport and out the other side," Joe suggested. "They weren't taken through Bayport. The cars were missed within 5 minutes after they were stolen, and all the police... Oh, God." "Out the other side," Joe suggested. "They weren't taken through Bayport. The cars were missed within 5 minutes after they were stolen, and all the patrolmen were told about 'em and kept a lookout. There was nobody on the Shore Road side, so this is the only way they could have come without being stopped. That's what makes it so queer," went on Detective Smuff. "The police in the other towns was given word, and they were waiting for the cars if they came through, but they never showed up." "Then the cars must be hidden somewhere along the Shore Road," Frank exclaimed. Looks like it. But we've searched every inch of the ground, and there's no place they could be hid." Detective Smuff shook his head sadly. "It's a deep case. A deep case. Ugh. Well, I'll do my best on it," he said, with the air of a martyr. "I'm sure you will," said Chet. He did not add that his private opinion of Detective Smuff's best was far from high. Opinion of Detective Smuff's best was far from high. A terrific barking from the direction of the orchard interrupted the conversation. The detective looked up, surprised. A loud howl and a protesting voice added to the uproar. "The chap in the tree!" shouted Chet. He raced around the corner of the stable, and the others quickly followed. Detective Smuff, left alone, looked around in bewilderment, then jogged heavily after the boys. Towser, beneath the apple tree, was doing his duty as guardian. The amateur detective, amateur, then jogged heavily after the boys. Towser, beneath the apple tree, was doing his duty as guardian. The amateur detective in the tree had attempted to escape, perhaps lulled to a sense of false security because Towser had apparently gone into a doze. He was halfway down the trunk now, and the bulldog was leaping and snapping at him from beneath. The chain was just long enough to hold the dog in check, and he fell short of the unfortunate victim by a few inches. But the frightened sleuth was unable to scramble back to safety and was clinging wretchedly to the tree, unable to retreat or descend. In the meantime, he roared loudly for help. Chet burst into peals of laughter, and the others, in spite of their sympathy for the inquisitive one and his plight, could restrain themselves no longer. The boys shrieked with merriment. Towser barked and leaped in renewed fury, and Detective Smuff came waddling up, audibly wondering what it was all about. A whistle from Jack Dodd, as soon as he was able to stifle his laughter sufficiently, attracted Towser's attention. He stopped barking and looked inquiringly at his master. "Down!" shouted Jack. Obediently, the dog lay down. "He won't hurt you," the man in the tree. That's not what he sounds like. Obediently, the dog lay down. He won't hurt you." The man in the tree, somewhat reassured, began to descend. The dog, beyond a low growl or two, paid no further attention. The moment the spy reached the ground, he started for the fence at a run, scrambled over it, and headed across the field. Growl or two, paid no further attention. Growl or two, paid no further attention. The moment the spy reached the ground, he started for the fence at a run, scrambled over it, and headed across the field toward the open road. "What was he doing?" asked Detective Smush. Smush? Smosh.com? Across the field toward the open road. Friend of the show. "What was he doing?" Across the field toward the open road. "What was he doing?" asked Detective Smuff suspiciously. "Watching us," Jack returned. "Seems as if half the people in the county have their eye on us since those cars were stolen. I think the chap is their eye on us since those cars were stolen. I think that chap is cured." "He should be," said Smuff, gazing respectfully at Towser. "If anyone bothers you after this, let me know. Us regular detectives can't have anyone button into our work like that." He glanced severely at the Hardy Boys as he spoke. "We certainly can't," said Joe innocently. Then, as Detective Smuff glared, he turned to his companions. "Come on, fellows." Oh, wait. Smuff glared. He turned to his companions. "Come on, fellas. Let's take a look through the woods on the other side of the road. We might find some trace. Look through the woods on the other side of the road. We might find some trace of. Let's take a look through the woods. He's not always joking. Side of the road. We might find some trace of the cars there." I think my problem sometimes with Joe is he's light-hearted, but he's not always joking, and I think sometimes I treat him too much like he's always having a joke. And that's okay. I'm doing okay. Right. Let's get to the next chapter. Oh, save as we go. Good habits. Some trace of the cars there. Chapter 7. Gus Montrose. Detective Smuff walked back as far as the road with the boys, and then clambered into his car. I think I'm getting lazy with my Montrose. Detective Smuff walked back as far as the road with the boys, and then clambered into his car, where another detective on the Bayport force was waiting for him. "You're just wasting your time hunting through the woods," he told the boys heavily. "A car couldn't get down there anyway, and we've hunted through the woods," he told the boys. It's not heavy enough. What does heavy mean? "You're just wasting your time hunting through the woods," he told the boys heavily. "A car couldn't get down there anyway, and we've hunted through there pretty thoroughly in through the woods," he told the boys heavily. "A car couldn't get down there anyway, and we've hunted through there pretty thoroughly in the second place. It'll give us something to do." Where's that click? There it is. Sorry, mouth click. "Oh, it'll give us something to do," Frank said cheerfully. "Keep you out of mischief, I guess," agreed Smuff, as though this were some consolation at any rate. He nodded to the boys, and the car sped off toward Bayport. "Dumb, but good-hearted," said Chet. "He isn't a bad sort," Joe remarked. "He's no great shakes as a detective, that's sure, but there are lots worse." The boys crossed the road and struck off down a narrow trail that led through the undergrowth into the woods on the sloping land between the Shore Road and Barmet Bay. For the most part, there were steep bluffs lining the bay, but at this point the declivity was more gradual. Land between the shore road and Barmet Bay. For the most part, there were steep bluffs lining the bay, but at this point the declivity was more gradual. "I think he's right about searching down through here," said Jack Dodd, dubiously. "A car could never get down into this bush." "A car mightn't, but the car thieves might," Frank pointed out. "It seems mighty queer that none of the stolen cars have been traced at either end of the shore road. These automobiles, stolen the other night, should have been picked up in one of the 3 towns on the branch roads. Smuff said the thefts were discovered. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, Frank needs some practice. A car could never get down into this bush." "A car mightn't, but the car thieves might," Frank pointed out. "It seems mighty queer that none of the stolen cars have been traced." "The car thieves might," Frank pointed out. "The car thieves might," Frank pointed. "It seems mighty queer that none of the stolen cars have been traced at either end of the shore road. These... Okay, once more for good luck," Frank pointed out. "It seems mighty queer that none of the stolen cars have been traced at either end of the shore road. Those automobiles stolen the other night should have been picked up in one of the 3 towns on the branch roads. Smuff said the thefts were discovered in plenty of time to send out warning." It does seem strange. Out of so many cars, you'd imagine at least 1 or 2 would have been traced outside Bayport." "I have a hunch that this whole mystery begins and ends right along the shore road," said Frank. "It won't hurt to scout around and see what we can find. Maybe there's a hidden machine shop where they alter the appearance of the autos." "Oh, I was reading of a case in New York New York City. New York City. Machine shop where they alter the appearance
Sorry,
of the
guys.
autos."
Oh, I was reading of a case in New York City not long ago," remarked Joe as they pushed along. "The auto thieves got cars downtown and drove them to some place uptown. The police followed half a dozen gangsters for 2 weeks before they got onto their trick. Drove them to some place uptown. The police followed half a dozen gangsters for 2 weeks before they got onto their trick, which was to drive into an alleyway that looked as if it came to an end at the back of a barn, and they found that a section of the side of the barn went up like a sliding door. The thieves would drive in with a stolen car, and inside the old barn was an elevator was running up."
Oh, God. Sorry, guys, that's a bad Joe. Let's do that
They
again.
found that a section looked as if it came to an end at the back of a barn. And they found that a section of the side of the barn went up like a sliding door. The thieves would drive in with a stolen car. Inside the old barn was an elevator running down to a cellar. In the cellar was a machine and paint shop, and 5 or 6 workmen down there could...
Gah. Let's try again.
Elevator running down to a cellar. In the cellar was a machine and paint shop, and 5 or 6 workmen down there could so alter a car in a few hours that the owner himself couldn't tell his own machine.
Can you beat it?
Few hours that the owner himself couldn't tell his own machine.
This is bad Joe. I'm sorry, guys, this is just bad Joe. This isn't Joe.
Police followed half a dozen gangsters for 2 weeks.
I think we need to help Joe out. Give him a bit of a polish.
Oh,
Started out strong.
Oh, I was reading of a case in New York City not long ago,
remarked Joe as they pushed along.
The auto thieves got cars downtown and drove them to someplace uptown, and the police followed a half a dozen gangsters for 2 weeks before they got onto their trick, which was to drive into an alleyway that looked as if it came to an end at the back of a barn. They found that a section of the side of the barn went up like a sliding door. The thieves would drive in with a stolen car. Inside the old barn was an elevator running down to a cellar. In the cellar was a machine and paint shop, and 5 or 6 workmen down there could so alter a car in a few hours that the owner himself couldn't tell his own machine. Can you beat it? Exclaimed Chet. Gee, it's a wonder they wouldn't work at something honest. Among the woods on the slope, the boys wandered aimlessly. The sun cast great shafts of light through the openings. Wonder they wouldn't work at something honest. Among the woods on the slope, the boys wandered aimlessly. The sun cast great shafts of light through openings in the leaves above, and once in a while they would catch glimpses of the blue waters of the bay in the distance. Frank was in the lead. He was proceeding down a narrow defile in the forest. Defile. The blue waters of the bay. Défilé. Frank was in the lead. He was proceeding down a narrow defile in the forest when the others saw him suddenly stop and turn toward them with a finger on his lips, cautioning silence. They remained stock still until he beckoned to them, and then moved quietly forward, their feet making no noise in the heavy grass. "I heard voices," Frank whispered as they came up to him. "Ahead?" asked his brother. Frank nodded. "We'll go easy." He moved on cautiously, and the others followed. In a few moments they heard a dull murmur of voices and smelled the unmistakable odor of a wood fire. So far they could see no one, but soon the faint trail wound around in the direction of a clearing ahead, and those in the rear saw Frank crouch among the bushes, peering through the leaves. Oh, bloody click there. Sorry, there was a click of the table. It's because I'm gripping the table in anticipation. I want to know what happens. All right. Okay. It sounds to me... I'm actually going to read ahead very quickly here because it seems like we're just about to meet 3 crooks. 3 crooks! And I think I just would like to have a warning of what they're like. Oh God, they're tramps by the looks of it. Okay. Oh. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Pardon me. All right. Faint trail wound around in the direction. Faint trail wound around in the direction. Wound around in the direction of what? Oh. Faint trail wound around in the direction of a clearing ahead, and those in the rear saw Frank crouch among the bushes, peering through the leaves. Quietly, the others came up. The 4 boys gazed through the undergrowth at the scene in the grassy clearing. 3 men were seated about a small fire, over which one was holding a tin pail suspended from a green branch. They were unshaven, frowsy-headed, untidy fellows, and they sprawled on the ground in careless attitudes. "Tramps," whispered Chet, but Frank pressed a restraining hand. Sprawled on the ground in careless attitudes. "Tramps," whispered Chet, but Frank pressed a restraining hand on his arm. There was one thought in the minds of the 4 boys, that this trio might be the automobile thieves. "Not far from Bayport, are we?" growled one of the men. Not many miles farther on," replied the man holding the branch. "It's the first time I've ever been in these parts." "Oh, it ain't so bad," volunteered the third man. Oh, God, I don't think I can maintain those They need to be more different. I don't know what's going on there. There was one thought in the minds of the 4 boys. Oh, I will take that away a bit. a restraining hand on his arm. There was one thought in the minds of the four boys, that this trio might be the automobile thieves.
Ah, not far from Bayport, are we? Growled one of the men.
Not many miles farther on, replied the man holding the branch.
It's the first time I've ever been in these parts.
Yeah, it ain't so bad, volunteered the third man, lighting his pipe. Easy pickings around the farmhouses. It didn't take me 10 minutes to rustle that grub tonight.
You did well, said the man. Oh, wait. Is Bill the one? Okay.
It didn't take me.
Okay. Okay, yeah. High-pitched voice. Trying to figure out who's who.
Oh, you did well, Bill, said the man at the fire, glancing at a package of food nearby. I wonder where that guy... Oh, wait. The fire, glancing at a package of food nearby. I wonder where that guy is that we met on our way in here. He gave us a funny look. Oh, he minded his own business anyway.
Good thing for him that he did. I don't hold with being asked questions.
Yeah, me neither. A good rap over the dome for anybody that wants to know too much. That's my motto. Is that mulligan ready? Oh, wait. Anybody that wants to know too much. That's my motto.
Is that mulligan ready?
Oh, not yet. We'll be eating in about 5 minutes.
Frank turned and gestured to the others, indicating that they may as well withdraw. It seemed clear to him that these men were simply tramps, preparing their evening meal in the shelter of the woods, and nothing would be gained by making their presence known. Jack Dodd and Joe turned and moved away slightly. Jack Dodd and Joe turned and moved silently away, but the luckless Chet had not gone 2 paces before he tripped over a root and fell sprawling on the ground with a grunt of pain and surprise. One of the tramps looked up.
What was that? Somebody in the bushes, said another. The 2 men scrambled to their feet and came directly toward the boys. Jack and Joe took to their heels, but Frank waited to help Chet up, and the delay was fatal. The tramps came crashing through the bushes and caught sight of them.
Kids, eh?
Roared one. He sprang toward Frank and caught him by the shoulder. The other seized Chet. Joe and Jack were out of sight beyond the trees by now, and the tramps were evidently unaware of their presence.
Take your hands off me, said Frank, coolly.
Somewhat taken aback, the tramp regarded him for a moment, in a surly manner.
What do you mean by spying on us? He demanded. We weren't spying on you.
Frank, come on, Frank, calm down.
What do you mean by spying on us? He demanded.
We weren't spying on you.
What brings you around here, then?
The other tramp had abandoned the pail of stew at the fire and came through the bushes toward them. Oh, what's the matter? He asked. What's going on here?
A couple of kids spying on us, said Frank's captor, and tightening his grip on the boy's shoulder.
The matter? He asked. What's going on here?
Oh, a couple of kids spying on us, said Frank's captor, and tightening his grip on the boy's shoulder.
We oughta... And tightening his grip on the boy's shoulder. We oughta skin him alive, declared the newcomer. How long you been hiding in them bushes, boy?
We came up just...
How long you been hiding in them bushes, boy?
We just came up a minute ago, and when we heard voices, we looked to see who was there. We were just going away.
You were, eh? What were you going away for?
Oh, it wasn't any of our business if you wanted to cook your supper in the woods.
This answer seemed to placate the Trumps. Trumps? Tramps. Oh my God, I've got Trump delusion syndrome. All right, okay. I don't. He really is a threat. Anyway, sorry. That was an aside. Moving on.
Our business if you wanted to
Well,
cook
he's
your
just
supper
Trump,
in the
isn't he?
woods.
This answer seemed to placate the tramps, for they glanced from one another.
Our business
Oh,
if you
come on,
wanted to
mate.
cook your supper in the woods.
This answer seemed to placate the tramps, for they glanced from one to the other, seemingly reassured. You weren't going for the police? Asked one, suspiciously. Both boys shook their heads. Did somebody send you here? No. We were just wandering through the wood, and we came on your fire. No, I think Frank's not going to sound that petulant. Did somebody send you here? No, we were just wandering through the wood, and we came on your fire. That fellow we met a little while ago didn't send you here, did he? We haven't seen anybody, said Frank. What did he look like? Okay, said Frank. What did he look like? Thin, hard-looking guy with a hooked nose. We haven't seen anyone like that. He was prowling around in here a little... Oh, God. Read the words. We haven't seen anyone like that. He was prowling around here a little while ago, said the tramp in a more friendly tone. I guess you boys are all right. If we let you go, will you promise not to run and tell the police? Oh, sure, piped Chet in vast relief. We're not doing any harm here. We're just three poor chaps that's out of work and we're on our way to Bayport to look for a job. Oh, wait. Piped Chet in
Wrong
vast
guy.
relief. Oh, we're not doing any harm here. We're just three poor chaps that's out of work, and we're on our way to Bayport to look for a job, whined one of the others. You wouldn't set the police on us, would you? Oh, it's none of our business who you are or what you're doing, Frank assured them. We won't mention seeing you. Oh. Okay, here we go. We won't mention seeing you. All right, then. His captor released his grip on Frank's shoulder. Beat it away from here and don't bother us again. The two boys lost no time in making their way out of that vicinity. The three tramps stood watching until they disappeared beyond the trees at the bend in the trail, then went back to the fire. Disappeared beyond the trees at the bend in the trail, then went back to their fire. Some distance away, Frank and Chet came upon the other boys who had halted and were devising ways and means of rescue. Golly, said Joe. Oh, wait, Joe's wrong guy. Sorry. Devising ways and means of rescue. Golly, said Joe. We thought you were in for it. We were just going to toss up and see who would go back to find out what had happened to you. Why couldn't you both come back? Chet asked. We thought if one of us went back, he might get caught too, and that would still leave somebody to go for help. Good idea. They were only tramps. Gave us a bit of a scare, said Chet, airily. He had been almost frightened out of his wits. We just talked right up to them and they let us go. I wonder if this... Why don't I read the words? How about that? That'd be nice. And they let us go. I wonder who is this hook-nosed man they were talking about, said Frank. They seem to be worrying more about him than about us. A hook-nosed man? Exclaimed Jack Dodd. What about him? You remember when they were talking by the fire, they mentioned meeting somebody on their way into the wood. They asked us about him, and seemed to think he may have sent us in to spy on them. Thin, hard-looking chap, Chet remarked, remembering the description the tramp had given. Why, that must... Oh, but it couldn't be him, exclaimed Jack. Who? Gus Montrose, the hired man that Dad discharged a little while ago. I was telling you about him. The description fits him exactly. I thought he went away, said Joe. We haven't seen him since he left the farm, but I've always had an idea he was prowling around. Just then, Frank clutched Chet's arm. Listen. The boys halted. They could plainly hear the sound of snapping twigs and a scuffing that indicated the approach of someone on the trail ahead. A moment later, a man came into view. He stepped out from among the trees and came to a stop, staring at the lads, plainly astonished at seeing them. Then he wheeled about and sprang into the bushes. Sorry, just got to have a quick break. This is getting exciting. It's a shame we're about to stop this one and get on to the next story, but it's taken me 2 whole chapters to warm up. Anyway, let's not talk about it. Let's just get going. Lads, plainly astonished at seeing them. Lads, plainly astonished at seeing them. Then he wheeled about and sprang into the bushes. They could hear him plunging through the undergrowth as he disappeared. Although they had only a momentary glance, the boys readily identified him as the man the tramps had mentioned. Disreputably clad, he was a thin man with a cruel mouth and a hooked nose. "Gus Montrose!" exclaimed Jack Dodd. Cruel mouth and a hooked nose. "Gus Montrose!" exclaimed Jack Dodd. All right. Oh my gosh. Part of me, I'll be completely honest, I'm quite glad that bit's over because I was sucking. No, that's not the right word. I was struggling there with that one. I don't know why. Anyway, I'm going to have a quick bathroom break. We're going to change over to a Lafcadio Hearn story, and in doing so, we're going to have to see what it is, obviously. Here we go. Not Jikininki, not Mujina, Rokuro Kubi. Let's save it. Here. Just here. Rokuro Kubi Raw. Okay, now we're going to select all, delete it, save it. Okay, right, I'll be right back. It's time for a bathroom break. I might leave a note. I probably don't need that anymore. It's my streaming schedule across 2 channels. In the name of transparency, I'll tell you there. Just going to leave a quick note for you guys. Now, I don't know where I'm going to put that where you can see it. But, let's do this. All right. Can you see it here? Nope. Nope. Oh, I thought I was going to be so clever doing this. Okay, right. Hang on. This felt a much better idea about 10 seconds ago. Nope. Oh my gosh, I can't figure out my own camera. Sorry guys, I'll be right back. Enough of this madness.
All right, hello. Okay. So, we're back. So, oh, hello. Jeff, sorry, mate. Live chat, very good. Hello, Jeff. Hello, hello. Sorry, Jeff, when did you type that? Oh, gosh, I'm really sorry, mate. Jeff, if you're watching this later, I'm sorry that I didn't acknowledge you, mate. I was probably in the middle of a sentence and cursing myself. But welcome anyway. I'm glad you came and stopped by. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, please, please excuse my reading tonight. I'm not seeming completely at my best, but at the same time, you know, ebbs and flows and all that. We're all just having a bit of fun. And yeah, this is for the kids, right? So happy, 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 happy. Now, I reckon now that we have finished those 2 chapters, how much was that? That felt like it wouldn't have been, but that felt like 3,000 to 5,000 words easy. But it wouldn't have been. It would have been like 2,000 or something. Let's just do a quick word count. Okay, 3,800, so about nearly 4,000 words. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. So chapter 8 will be next time, the missing truck. Oh my gosh. And they're going to go and try and tackle him. So that's no good. I mean, that's good. Usually at this point of the book, whoever they think it is not the person. So, or is only a pawn in the game of someone else. So if they do go and tackle Gus Montrose, then I don't think it's going to work out too well for them. So we've just finished chapter 7, Gus Montrose. Next stream, we're going to do the missing truck. So let's move on now. We've got another thing to do. Rokuro Kubi. Okay. This is part of Kaidan, and this is something we are actually going to turn into an audiobook tonight. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it all. We'll give it a crack. Look, if I'm not feeling it, I'm just not going to do it. One thing that I'm really becoming aware of in my dotage, in my youngish age, is you know, if you want to do easy mode for the day and it's not hurting anybody, why wouldn't you choose easy mode? So for example, this morning I told the boys in advance we were going to go to the dump straight after breakfast. By the time we got to the dump, it was 4:30-ish p.m. So, instead we watched a couple of movies. I had a nap in front of the TV with them. We played a little bit of Lego. We did a bit of stuff in the yard. We fed the animals, had lunch, My wife got home from work, and then we just had a good day, like a nice relaxed day. And you should be allowed to do that. And boys, I'm explicitly giving you permission to do that in the future. If this is you watching this, yeah, life is tough enough as it is sometimes. And I would say the person who is pushing you the hardest is yourself. And that ain't no good. Because you've got to live with yourself. And if you keep on doing it, then eventually you're going to break down. I'm not saying you shouldn't push yourself. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying you shouldn't put in a hard day's work. You need to, unfortunately. That's just how life works. And it's actually not even unfortunately, it's great. It's great to feel like you're achieving something, no matter what that is, whatever your job or passion or, whatever it is that's helping you live your life and hopefully pay the bills and all that kind of stuff. Or at least help you maintain a healthy state of mind. A sense of achievement. Without that, what's the point? You're just going through the motions.
you really need to find meaning in what you're doing, and if you can't, then it doesn't mean you should change everything, but maybe you should just talk to someone about that, someone who you trust. Anyway, hopefully that's us, and if it's not, then I'm sure you have someone in your life that you could talk to, and if you feel like you don't, trust me, you do, but if you don't, just go and see a GP about it. I didn't mean to get all heavy there, but don't be afraid of getting some mental health help, It's their job, they're specialists. I'm not very good at seeking that help myself personally, but every time I have, I've been very glad that I've gone. So, anyway, so today we're going to read in this section Rokuro Kubi. Rokuro Kubi. I might just get the Google Translate up, get it ready to go. And then that way, when we need it, we don't need it, if you know what I mean. Oh gosh, that's wrong. Okay, Rokuro Kubi.
ろくろ首
Rokuro Kubi. Rokuro Kubi.
ろくろ首
Now, can you guys see that? I think you can. Can you hear that? Sorry, not see it. Can you see it with your ears?
ろ
Can you
く
hear it?
ろ首
Yes, you can. Okay, cool. All right, so, okay. Rokuro Kubi. Rokuro Kubi. Rokuro Kubi. So this is on Project Gutenberg, and if you haven't ever used Project Gutenberg with its over 75,000 or 70, whatever it is, thousand books for free, then what have you been doing? Go and check it out. Right. The Project Gutenberg ebook of Kaidan. Kaidan Stories and Studies of Strange Things by Love Cardio Home. Right, I'm just trying to psych myself up because once we get going, we're getting going. You know what I mean? So, let's do it. Rokuro Kubi. Rokuro Kubi. Rokuro Kubi. All right. Look, this is completely raw. This is me trying my best. I think it's worth the struggles with the pronunciation for the quality of the stories. I love this guy, and I love this anthology of short stories. So let's go. G'day guys, welcome back to Short Stories Boring Dad. Wow, this is a sign. Maybe it's not going to be worth doing this tonight. G'day guys, welcome back to Boring Dad Short Stories. Short story. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. All right, let's try that again for the 5th time. What is the name of my channel? G'day guys, welcome back to Boring Dad Sleep Stories. And this is... Guys, welcome back to Boring Dad Sleep Stories. Today we're reading Rokuro Kubi, which is a short story in an anthology of short stories called Kaidan. I'm doing it again, guys. I did it again. Help. Hilfe. An anthology of short stories called Kaidan. Stories and Studies of Strange Things by Lafcadio Hearn and published in 1904. And just a little reminder, this entire channel is dedicated to our 2 sons, who are 6 and 3 years old. Boys, we love you so much. Let's go. Avanti. I don't like the pacing there. We love you so much. Geez, that sounds a bit dark. Boys, 2 sons, who are 6 and 3 years old. Boys, your mother and I love you so much. So much. Let's go. Avanti. Avanti. Nearly 500 years ago. Apologies for the noise. Sorry, guys. Avanti. Nearly 500 years ago, there was a samurai named Isogai. Oh my gosh, what is that name? Okay. Heidazaemon, Zaemon, Taketsura. Let's go.
磯貝平太左衛門竹面
Taketsura.
磯貝平太左衛門竹
Named Isogai. Nearly 500 years ago, there was a samurai. Let's just start again. Nearly 500 years ago, there was a samurai named Isogai Heidazaemon Taketsura in the service of Lord Kikuji of Kyushu. This Isogai had inherited from many warlike ancestors a natural aptitude for military exercises and extraordinary strength. While yet a boy, he had surpassed his teachers in the art of swordsmanship, in archery, and in the use of the spear, and had displayed all the capacities of a daring and skillful soldier. Afterwards, in the time of the Eikyo War, he had so of a daring and skillful soldier. Afterwards, in the time of the Eikyo War, he so distinguished himself that high honors were bestowed upon him. But when the house of Kikuji came to ruin, Isogai found himself without a master. He might then easily have obtained service under another daimyo, but as he had never sought distinction for his own sake alone, and as his heart remained true to his former lord, he preferred to give up the world. So, he cut off his hair and became a traveling priest, taking the Buddhist name of Kwairyo. Kwairyo. Yeah, that works. Okay, let's try. The Buddhist name of Kwairyo. But always, under the koromo of the priest, Kwairyo kept warm within him the heart of the samurai, as in the other As in other years he had laughed at peril, now warm within him the heart of the samurai. As in other years he had laughed at peril, so now also he scorned danger. And in all weathers and all seasons he journeyed to preach the good law in places where no other priest would have dared to go. For that age was an age of violence and disorder, and upon the highways there was no security for the solitary traveler, even if he happened to be a priest. In the course of his first long journey, Kwairyo had occasion to visit the province of Kai. One evening, as he was traveling through the mountains of that province, darkness overcame him in a very lonesome district, leagues away from any village. So he resigned himself to pass the night under the stars, and having found a suitable grassy spot by the roadside, he lay down there and prepared to sleep. He had always welcomed discomfort and prepared to sleep. Lay down there and prepared to sleep. Lay down there and prepared to sleep. He had always welcomed discomfort, and even a bare rock was lay down there and prepared to sleep. He had always welcomed discomfort, and even a bare rock was for him a good bed, when nothing better could be found. Lay down there and prepare Too much pausing. He had always welcomed discomfort, and even a bare rock was for him a good bed when nothing better could be found, and the root of a pine tree an excellent pillow. His body was iron, and he never troubled himself about dews or rain or frost or snow. Scarcely had he laid down when a man came along the road, carrying an axe, and a great bundle of chopped wood. This woodcutter halted on seeing Kwario lying down, and after a moment of silent observation said to him in a tone of great surprise, "What kind of a man can you be, good sir, that you dare to lie down alone in such a place as this? There are haunters about here, many of them. Are you not afraid of hairy things?" "My friend," cheerfully answered Kwario, "I am only a wandering priest, a cloud and water guest, as folks call it, unsui no ryokaku, and I am not in at least." I struggled over my own language, not the Japanese. Unsui no ryokaku. "And I am not in the least afraid of hairy things, if you mean goblin foxes or goblin badgers or any creatures of that kind. As for lonesome places, I like them. They are suitable for meditation. I am accustomed to sleeping in the open air, and I have never learned to be anxious about my life." "You must be indeed a brave man, Sir Priest," the peasant responded, "to lie down here. This place has a bad name, a very bad name. But, as the proverb has it, Kunshi Ayuyuki Nichek. Oh gosh. No. I was on a roll. Kunshi Ayuyuki ni Chikaya Chikara Chikatita. We'll put it into Google Translate. Okay, let's try that.
君子分行きに近寄らず
What?
君子分行きに近寄らず
Kunshi Ayuki ni Chikayazora. Chikayorazu. Chikayorazu. I'm not going to get this. Kunshi. As the proverb has it, Kunshi Ayuki ni Chikayorazu. Da. But, as the proverb has it, Kunshi Ayuki ni Chikayorazu. Chikayorazu. As the proverb has it. What is it? Kunshi Ayuki ni Chikayorazu. I think I got it. As the proverb has it, Kunshi Ayuki ni Chikayorazu. Bad name, a very bad name. Bad name, a very bad name. But, as the proverb has it, Kunshi Ayuki ni Chikayorazu. Ah! Okay. You go have a break, okay? Come back in half an hour. I'll be here. Name, a very bad. But, as the proverb has it, Kunshi Ayuki ni Chikayorazu. It's the last word. Ni Chikayorazu. Ni Chikayorazu. Ni Chikayorazu. Yorazu. Bad name, a very bad name. But, as the proverb has it, Kunshi Ayuki ni Chikayorazu. The superior man does not needlessly expose himself to peril, and I must assure you, sir, that it is very dangerous to sleep here. Therefore, although my house is only a wretched thatched hut, let me beg of you to come home with me at once. In the way of food I have nothing to offer you, but there is a roof at least, and you can sleep under it without risk." He spoke earnestly, and Kwario, liking the kindly tone of the man, accepted this modest offer. The woodcutter guided him along a narrow path, leading from the main road through the mountain forest. The man accepted this modest offer. The woodcutter guided him along a narrow path, leading up from the main road through mountain forest. It was a rough and dangerous path, sometimes skirting precipices, sometimes offering nothing but a network of slippery roots for the foot to rest upon, sometimes winding over or between masses of jagged rock. But at last, Kwario found himself upon a cleared space at the top of a hill, with a full moon shining overhead. And he saw before... Bah! Top of a hill,
Humbug.
with a full moon shining overhead. And he saw before him, at the top of a hill, with a full moon
Oh, whoops.
top of a hill, with
Sorry,
a full
guys.
moon shining overhead. And he saw before him a small thatched cottage, cheerfully lighted from within. The woodcutter led him to a shed at the back of the house, whither water had been conducted through bamboo pipes from some neighboring stream, and the two men washed their feet. Beyond the shed was a vegetable garden and a grove of cedars and bamboos, and beyond the trees appeared the glimmer of a cascade, pouring from some loftier height and swaying in the moonshine like a long white robe. As Quadio entered the cottage with his guide, he perceived 4 persons, men and women, warming their hands at a little fire kindled in the ro of the principal apartment. Perceived 4 persons, men and women, warming their hands at a little fire kindled in the ro of the principal apartment. They bowed low to the priest and greeted him in the most respectful manner. Quadio wondered that persons so poor and dwelling in such a solitude should be aware of the polite forms of greeting. These are good people, he thought to himself, and they must have been taught by someone well acquainted with the rules of propriety. Then, turning to his host, the aruji, or housemaster, as the others called him, Quadio said, "From the kindness of your speech, and from the very polite welcome given me by your household, I imagine that you have not always been a woodcutter. Perhaps you formerly belonged to one of the upper classes." Smiling, the woodcutter answered, "Sir, you are not mistaken. Though now living as you find me, I was once a person of some distinction. My story is the story of a ruined life, ruined by my own fault. I used to be in the service of a daimyo, the story of a ruined life, ruined by my own fault. I used to be in the service of a daimyo, and my rank in that service was not inconsiderable. But I loved women and wine too well, and under the influence of passion, I acted wickedly. My selfishness brought about the ruin of our house and caused the death of many persons. Retribution followed me, and I long remained a fugitive in the land. Now I often pray that I may be able to make some atonement from the evil, not from the evil, for the evil. And I long remained a fugitive in the land. Sorry, just feeling ennui on his behalf. And I long remained a fugitive in the land. Now I often pray that I may be able to make some atonement for the evil which I did, and to re-establish the ancestral home. But I fear that I shall never find any way of so doing. Nevertheless, I try to overcome the karma of my errors by sincere repentance and by helping, as far as I can, for those who are unfortunate." Quairyo was pleased by this announcement of good resolve, and he said to the aruji, "As far as I can, for those who are unfortunate." Quadio was pleased by this announcement of good resolve, and he said to the aruji, "My friend, I have had occasion to observe that men prone to folly in their youth may, in after years, become very earnest in right living. In the Holy Sutras it is written that those strongest in wrongdoing can become, by power of good resolve, the strongest in right doing. I do not doubt that you have a good heart, and I hope that better fortune will come to you. Tonight, I shall recite the sutras for your sake, and pray that you may obtain the force to overcome the karma of any past errors." With these assurances, Quadio bade the aruji good night, and his host showed him to a very small side room where a bed had been made ready. Then all went to sleep except the priest, who began to read the sutras by the light of a paper lantern. Until a late hour, he continued to read and pray. Read the sutras by the light of a paper lantern. Read the sutras by the light of a paper lantern. Until a late hour, he continued to read and pray. Then he opened a little window in his little sleeping room to take a last look at the landscape before lying down. The night was beautiful. There was no cloud in the sky. There was no wind. And the strong moonlight threw down sharp black shadows of foliage and glittered on the dews of the garden. Shrillings of crickets and bell insects made a musical tumult, and the sound of the neighboring cascade deepened with the night. Quadio felt thirsty as he listened to the noise of the water, and remembering the bamboo aqueduct at the rear of the house, he thought that he could go there and get a drink without disturbing the sleeping household. Very gently, he pushed apart the sliding screens that separated his room from the main apartment, and he saw, by the light of the lantern, 5 recumbent bodies, without heads. For one instant he stood bewildered, imagining a crime. But in another moment bodies, without heads. For one instant he stood, bewildered, imagining a crime. But in another moment he perceived that there was no blood, and that the headless necks did not look as if they had been cut. Then he thought to himself, either this is an illusion made by goblins, or I have been lured into the dwelling of a Rokuru Kubi. In the book Sho Shinki, it is written that if one find the body of a Rokuru Kubi without its head and remove the body to another place, the head will never be able to join itself again to the neck. And the book further says that when the head comes back and finds that its body has been moved, it will strike itself upon the floor 3 times, bounding like a ball, and will pant as in great fear, and presently die. Now, if these be Rokuro Kubi, they mean me no good, so I shall be justified in following the instructions of the book. He seized the body of the Aruji by the feet, pulled it to the window, and pushed it out. Then he went to the back door, which he found barred, and he surmised that the heads had made their exit through the smoke hole in the roof, which had been left open. Gently, smoke hole in the roof, which had been left open. Gently, smoke hole in the roof, here we go, which had been left open. Gently unbarring the door, he made his way to the garden and proceeded with all possible caution. Caution? Come on, mate. Which had been left open. Gently unbarring the door, he made his way to the garden and proceeded with all possible caution to the grove beyond it. He heard voices talking in the grove, and he went in the direction of the voices, stealing from a shadow to shadow until he reached a good hiding place. Then, from behind a trunk, he caught sight of the heads, all 5 of them, flitting about and chatting as they flitted. They were eating worms and insects which they found on the ground or among the trees. Presently, the head of the Aruji stopped eating and said, "Ah, that traveling priest who came tonight. Oh, how fat all his body is. When we shall have eaten him, our bellies will be well filled. Oh, I was foolish to talk to him as I did. It only set him to reciting the sutras on behalf of my soul. To go near him while he is reciting would be difficult, and we cannot touch him so long as he is praying. Oh, but now, damn, would be difficult. Would be difficult. And we cannot touch him so long as he is praying. Oh, but As it is now nearly morning, perhaps he has gone to sleep. Oh, some one of you go to the house and see what the fellow is doing. Another head, the head of a young woman, immediately rose up and flitted to the house, lightly as a bat. After a few minutes it came back, and cried out huskily, in a tone of great alarm, "That traveling priest is not in the house. He is gone. But that is not the worst of the matter. He has taken the body of our Aroji, and I do not know where he has put it." At this announcement, the head of the Aroji, distinctly visible in the moonlight, assumed a frightful aspect. Its eyes opened monstrously. Its hair stood up, bristling, and its teeth gnashed. Its eyes opened monstrously. Its hair stood up, bristling, and its teeth gnashed. Then a cry burst from its lips, and, weeping tears of rage, it exclaimed, "Since my body has been moved, to rejoin it is not possible. Then I must die, and all the moved. To rejoin it is not possible, and all the work of that." Oh wait, to rejoin
the
it
words.
is not possible, and all through the work of that priest. Before I die, I will get at that priest. I will tear him. I will devour him. And there he is, behind the tree, hiding behind that tree. See him, the fat coward. That tree, see him, the fat coward. In the same moment, the head of the Aroji, followed by the other four heads, sprang at Kwario. But the strong priest had already armed himself by plucking up a young tree, and with that tree he struck the heads. The other four heads sprang at Kwario. But the strong priest had already armed himself by plucking up a young tree, and with that tree he struck the heads as they came, knocking them from him with already armed himself by plucking up a young tree, and with that tree he struck the heads as they came, knocking them from, oh my gosh, read the words, by plucking up a young tree. And with that tree he struck the heads as they came, knocking them from him with tremendous blows. Four of them fled away. Already armed himself mouth noises. By plucking up a young tree. And with that tree he struck the heads as they came, knocking them from him with tremendous blows. Four of them fled away. But the head of the Aroji, though battered, read the words. Tremendous blows. Sorry, that's my mantra. Away. But the head of the Aroji, though battered, again and again, desperately continued to bound at the priest, and at last caught him by the left sleeve of his robe. Kwario, however, was caught him by the left sleeve of his robe. Kwario, however, as quickly gripped the head of it. Caught him by the left sleeve of his robe. Kwario, however, as quickly gripped the head by its top knot. Caught him by the left sleeve of his robe. Kwario, however, as quickly gripped the head by its top knot and repeatedly struck it. It did not release its hold, but it uttered a long moan, and thereafter ceased to struggle. It was dead. But its teeth still held the sleeve, and for all his great strength, Kwario could not force open the jaws. With the head still hanging to his sleeve, he went back to the house, and there caught sight. Kwario could not force open the jaws. With the head still hanging to his sleeve, he went back to the house, and there caught sight of the other four Rokuro Kubi, squatting together, with their bruised and bleeding heads reunited to their bodies. But when they perceived him at the back door, all screamed, "The priest! The priest!" Kwario could not force open the jaws. With the head still hanging to his sleeve, he went back to the house, and there caught sight of the other four Rokuro Kubi squatting together with their bruised and bleeding heads reunited to their bodies. But when they perceived him at the back door, all screamed, "The priest! The priest!" and fled through the other doorway out into the woods. Eastward, the sky was brightening. Day was about to dawn, and Quario knew that the power of the goblins was limited to the hours of darkness. He looked at the head clinging to his sleeve, its face all fouled with blood and foam and clay. And he laughed aloud as he thought to himself, "What a biyage! The head of a goblin." After which he gathered together his What a biyage! And he laughed with blood and foam and clay. And he laughed aloud as he thought to himself, "What a miyage! The head of a goblin." After which he gathered together his few belongings and leisurely descended the mountain to continue his journey. Right on he journeyed. He descended the mountain to continue his journey. Right on he journeyed until he came to Suwa in Shinano. He descended the mountain to continue his journey. Right on he journeyed until he came to Suwa in Shinano, and into the main street of Suwa he solemnly strode, with the head dangling at his elbow. Then woman fainted, and children with the head dangling at his elbow. Then women fainted, and children screamed and ran away, and there was such a crowding and clamoring until the torite. And children screamed and ran away, and there was a great crowding and clamoring until the torite, as the police in those days were called, seized the priest and took him to jail, for they supposed the head be the head. Seized the priest and took him to jail, for they supposed that the head to be the head. Seized the priest and took him to jail, for they supposed the head. Where am I? Seized the priest and took him to jail, for they supposed the head to be the head of a murdered man who, in the moment of being killed, had caught the murderer's sleeve in his teeth. As for Quario, he only smiled and said nothing when they questioned him. So, after having passed a night in prison, he was brought before the magistrates of the district. Then he was ordered to explain how he, a priest, had been found with the head of a man fastened to his sleeve, and why he had dared thus shamelessly to parade his crime in the sight of people. Quario laughed long and loudly at these questions, and then he said, "Sirs, I did not fasten the head to my sleeve. It fastened itself there, much against my will. And I have not committed any crime, for this is not the head of a man, it is the head of a goblin. And if I caused the death of the goblin, I did not do so by shedding any blood, but simply by taking the precautions necessary to assure my own safety." And he proceeded to relate the whole of the encounter. Oh, guys, I'm hitting a brick wall here. The precautions necessary to assure my own safety. I'm going to have to stop there, guys, because I'm not going to fight it. I am about to fall asleep, literally on stream. I've done it before. You've actually seen me do it a couple of weeks ago, I think. But no, when I'm recording, I can literally read myself to sleep, and it ain't pretty trying to recover from it. And in fact, I'm getting, it's weird. Like I just hit this brick wall of resistance. Look, we got a good warm-up done. We got our Hardy Boys done. I had a Freudian moment calling Trump, which, interesting moment. Sorry, that really was. Freudian slip. We're all down our little algorithmic rabbit holes, depending on whether you're in the right or the left-hand side of those things. Australia is not benignly, we're not escaping from what's going on overseas. America is definitely not the center of the world as it thinks it is most of the time, but at the moment it actually really is. So, boys, when you're watching this in the future, I hope it all turned out all right. And obviously, if you're listening to this, it did. So, we got 2 chapters of the Hardy Boys done, the Shore Road Mystery. And we have gotten about halfway through. Yeah, about halfway through. Rokuro Kubi. And we'll finish that next time. We might start again. We might finish it off. I'm not sure. But it'll be fine. Okay, right. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are a person who is not watching it right now, which I imagine you're not, because that would be impossible. What am I even talking about? Okay, sorry guys, I'm rambling now. Boys, if you're out there in the future watching this, love you very much, obviously. And it's been a fun time. And wherever you are, whoever you are, and whatever you're doing, stay safe, be well, and I'll see you next stream. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. I could go to sleep where I sit, right here. It's strange, isn't it? Strange when it happens to me. I'm ready to stop. Rightio.